Welcome to the Town Hall Get to Know. This is a TV show about influential people who are making a positive impact in their community, in society at large. And I want you to get to know Don Cummins this evening. Don Cummins, excuse me. He is our special guest today. And, it's no accident that you might be watching this broadcast tonight. Just like light overcomes the darkness, positive overcomes negative. God has a plan for everything, and that's why you're watching this broadcast. And we would appreciate that you stick with us through the end, because if you leave, change the channel, you're going to miss something that's really important. Now, if you happen to know somebody that could benefit from this program, please have them watch this or catch it on the replay. You can watch this broadcast on E360 TV application on your Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple and Android TV. And as well, we appreciate our sponsors who make this broadcast possible. Cool Today for all your plumbing needs, electrical needs, as well as Total Coatings for your bathtub refinishing. And we have a new sponsor, and we welcome them on board as well, Sarasota Architectural Salvage. And I tell you, they have some fantastic stuff you can use to decorate your home. Oh my goodness, I just love all of their wood furniture. They got some great stuff down there too. So we'll hear from them later in the show. But I'm curious, have you ever found yourself in a situation that seemed hopeless? Or have made choices that created unhappiness or anger or resentment in your life? If the answer is yes, then I ask you to stay tuned and watch this enlightening show and learn how Don Cummins has overcome adversity. He's overcome the obstacles that he created in his life. And he carries that message now to people all over the country. And Don actually is a speaker. He's an author. He has a book out. We'll be sharing that information with you too as well. He's a coach. He's also an advocate of recovery. He's an advocate of positive transformational change. And his message is for anyone who wants to overcome obstacles that they have in their life, find freedom within themselves, and create the life that they want. He actually went through some pretty extreme circumstances. He ended up in prison. He struggled with drugs and alcohol for a long time, and he turned his life around. And that's what's so awesome tonight, and that's what's going to be so inspiring. We're going to talk to him. He's going to share with us how he did this. He was living up here in Safety Harbor, just up the road from us here in Sarasota, Florida, in Safety Harbor. I think I said that. He's a motivational speaker, though, as well, in the Pinellas County School System, but I believe now he's traveling all over the country and speaking to our youth and telling them about the opportunity to really enjoy your everyday life. And that's what it comes down to. We want you to enjoy your everyday life. That's what we want for you. That's what we pray for you. And that's why we're here, is to help you achieve a higher quality of life, one that you can be proud of. And without further ado, I'd love to bring our guest, Mr. Don Cummins, in. Give him a warm welcome. Welcome, Don. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
You are very welcome. It's my pleasure. I am blessed, and our viewers are as well, to have you here tonight. I know that I had the opportunity. My sister is the person I have to give credit to that really made this happen for us. She mentioned to me that you had spoken recently to the Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance here just up the road in Sarasota County. And I read your story, and it's like I couldn't be there for your engagement to speak, but it's like I need to get to know you. And so thank you for honoring us here with your presence tonight.
Well, thank you for having me here, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you better as well, Steve.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, this show is really about you. There. We want to get to know you, Don. Maybe you can just help the viewers get a little bit more familiar with you, and you can tell them a little bit about your story.
Okay, well, I I am in recovery, in long-term recovery from drug and alcohol addiction, and I had a good childhood. There were some pain points there, though. I suffered trauma on a few different levels and had some very negative experiences, which basically led me to be put away at the age of 13 in a drug program. And I was state raised, became involved in the system. And ultimately, my life became a cycle of going to prison, getting out, and using hard drugs and becoming homeless, and actually becoming insane, delusional because of my binges using drugs. And I served over 20 years in prison for bank robberies related to my addiction. And I found myself suicidal, homeless, completely broken when recovery came into my life. And as a result, I did a massive 180. And today I am excited about sharing this powerful message of recovery that can transform lives in a way that is almost mind-boggling. And I know that if it changed my life, it can change the lives of others. And that's why I'm here tonight and so happy to be here and share this message.
I'm so happy as well. That's quite a story. Ending up in prison, and then, as I recall, you started using drugs at a pretty early age. As I recall, like 10 years old, you tried it.
Yes.
Now, maybe you can share what was the draw there? Why did you try it out, and what were you feeling when you did this at such a young age?
Well, it wasn't the one thing. There were several things that kind of came together, I believe, for me. I remember I went through a period of being curious because I had been exposed to drug use. My parents used drugs for a time there for 3 or 4 years, and they turned their lives around and they went to church. But and things changed. You know, this was the early 70s, and so my dad got a haircut, and they dressed differently, and a part of me kind of didn't like that. You know, I was used to the environment that I was in. When I was really young, I was abused by a neighbor. And I had also a family friend, a friend of my mom and dad's, Billy, who committed suicide right in front of me when I was 9, and he was like an uncle to me. And somewhere along the line, I withdrew from interacting with people, and I began to put up walls, and I became emotionally numb. And I felt alone, and I was uncomfortable in my own skin. And it was around that time that I became curious about using drugs. And so I used my first drug at age 10. And in a matter of only 2.5 years, my life became a complete train wreck. And I was kicked out of junior high school a couple times for drug use. And I was committed to the program I mentioned earlier. And for me, it was an escape from the way that I felt. I just didn't like how I felt, and I would escape through using drugs. And I began escaping by running away from home and skipping school and just checking out of anything that was good for me. I didn't like feeling, and I just wanted to escape.
I think that I know that feeling about escaping and just trying to, hide from. I put on a pretty good mask actually for a long time. People would say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I'd say, "Oh, everything is fine. Everything is great." Um, I can laugh about it today, but it wasn't so funny at the time. And I'll tell you what I did think. I thought that I was fooling everybody too, as well. But um, I know that when you're young and you start utilizing drugs, that it actually does affect our brains, and it kind of inhibits our ability to be able to learn how to cope with uh, trauma or painful experiences in our life. And so I kind of learned when things got tough, well, have a drink.
That's right.
I'm just curious though, how did, your childhood experiences then play that role? You were coping with drugs as a result of trying to just hide from the pain that you had experienced?
I did, and I wasn't aware of that at the time, and I wasn't so conscious of some of the things that I had been through that were hurtful to me.
Mhm.
I became very good at stuffing my feelings and not feeling them. And for example, when The family friend committed suicide in front of me. It was while we were fishing, my father and I and a friend, and he dove upon a big lock blade buck knife and buried it to the hilt of his own chest. And I remember sitting in my dad's truck crying and looking at myself in the rear view mirror, and I made myself stop crying and said, Donnie, you can get through this, and stop crying. And I forced a smile upon my face, and then immediately I went numb. And later, when my mother and Billy's wife were crying at the dinner table, I was irritated that they were crying. I was irritated that it bothered them. And I didn't understand it because I had just shut down. And I had been through similar experiences where I went through something intense or severe or something that was hurtful. And my reaction was to numb and to medicate. And so drugs, they became a go-to to capture that same effect, and also to feel a connection with other people. When I first got high, at the junior high I went to, people hung out at this big oak tree across the street from the school. And when I started hanging out with them and I got high with them, I felt like I had found my tribe, so to speak, and that they understood me, or they got me. And they also reminded me kind of my parents, how they used to be just a few years before, when they used, and they listened to the music that I liked and things like that. So
Well, it does end up kind of being I want to fit in with other people. And then, I know that's what happened to me too. I wasn't a jock. I wasn't into the athletics or anything. So I was hanging out with the stoners, right?
Right.
But we wanted to fit in. As a teenager, that's really important factors to actually be appreciated by our peers, right?
That's right. Yeah.
What do you feel that were some of the weaknesses, now that you can look back on this and you can say, well, these were some of my weaknesses, and what would be some of the coping skills that you use today then, when things come up that might trigger you to want to use again, or to cope in a different, more unhealthy fashion?
Today, many of the dynamics that I experienced back then are still with me today. And that got even worse as it went on. But my coping definitely is different than back then. And one of the weaknesses that I think of off the top of my head is my fear of other people in social situations, and I feel awkward, and I feel like withdrawing and just not saying anything, and I wonder what people are thinking about me, or if I'm, I've just always been very socially awkward, and I've always been aware of that, and so early on I used drugs to compensate for that feeling, used alcohol or drugs as a social lubricant, so to speak, and so I still feel those things today, and I'm not a natural extrovert, but I am aware of it. And so the way I cope with that is I try to confront my fear, and I try to exercise a principle called courage. And I know that if it's right for me to say hello to somebody on the elevator, if it's the right thing to do, it's a good thing to connect with people. It's a good thing to engage people and share and feel a connection, and possibly tell somebody something that might be very meaningful to them, and I might get something in the process. And so I work on myself like that, and I intentionally engage people.
So it's a challenge then. And I know other people that are highly successful that are more introvert, not that extroverted, outgoing behavior. And so you're really just stepping into your fears and facing them head on. Isn't that correct?
Yes, and that's not an easy task, and it takes practice, and I have to be willing to fall down, or to maybe look dumb, even, and that's okay. When a principle that goes along with that helps me cope is self-acceptance, and not beating myself up, and not being hard on myself, and giving myself a break. So that goes hand in hand with that, because I'm willing to put myself out there and take a risk and be vulnerable. on whatever level that may be. I need to be prepared to make mistakes and to fall flat on my face and to pick myself back up and say, hey, that's okay. I'm going to keep going. And I know that success is somewhere before me and I'm going to chase it. And so
Well, that's great perseverance. I know that for myself, back in the day, it was about being highly concerned about judgment of others.
mhm.
What are they going to say about me if they knew the truth, kind of thing.
Yes.
And so, how do you deal with this judgment of others these days versus how you used to deal with what people might think?
Mhm. Um, I would have to say in much the same way. Usually, when I allow my people to rent space in my head, what are they thinking of me? Or I know that they don't like me, or they think I'm a bad person, or if they really got to know the real me, would they like me? I still experience those types of thoughts today. And I don't take the same action upon them I used to. A good example might be of this is how I dealt with this. For a long time in my recovery, I was very conscious about my past, because when recovery came in my life, I worked very hard and I got a job and I got promoted and I became the director of my department in an international corporation. And I felt like I was living a double life, and it was strange because I used to live a double life where I tried to convince people I was not doing bad things when when I really was. And now I was very aware that I had a bad past and I wanted to keep that silent, and I was scared of what people would think of me if they knew the guy down the street with two cars was actually a bank robber and had been a crackhead and
Mhm.
homeless and all of this stuff, and would they like me anymore? And would I get fired from work if our business partners found that out about me? And at a certain point, I realized that, I don't really care what people think. I think it's more important to put that out there, and so other people know that there is hope and that there is a future, and that success and love and happiness lay before us when we're willing to put in the work and face whatever it is that we've been struggling with, and to deal with that and to ask for help. And so I did that, and I found that all of my fears were, I've heard that 95% of the things we fear never come true, and so why waste the time giving that space in our heads? And people at work, for example, when I came out, I did it on social media. I said I'm coming out of the closet, and I figured that would be a good attention grabber, and it was. And so I explained about my past and my drug use and all of that, and I
Mhm.
was expressed how grateful I was for recovery. And people came up to me and said, "Man, I never have known anybody that came back like you did, and I'm glad to know someone like you." And I found that when I make myself vulnerable and I'm real, and I am not afraid to show my weaknesses along with whatever strengths that I may have, that
Mhm.
people don't judge me in the way that I thought they would. People usually they are very, I connect with them, and they have an admiration for that ability to be honest and real and vulnerable. And so
Well, I think you made a good point there because I found that my fear, which was projecting and assuming that I thought that how I knew how people were going to respond or react. Uh, Respond, I like that better, but some people react, and we can still react, but response, I think, is always better. Point being that now uh, I've found that they really actually appreciated the honesty versus and the fact is I was still in my mind thinking I'm pulling the wool over their eyes. When in fact I really wasn't. They just maybe didn't say anything, but they did appreciate the fact that I was being honest. Now I know that before the show there was a moment here for you because that's what happens with everybody, I would hope. one of a couple things. God forbid that they take their own life, because of course that's certainly an option, and it's something that I struggled with for a long time because I just really didn't like myself. But we talked before the show, there was an epiphany moment for you that made it a little bit easier. Maybe you can share that with the viewers.
Sure. I had my bottom, and it's funny when we talk about bottoms because I thought that I had reached my bottom so many times, and I thought it couldn't get any worse, but it kept getting worse, you know. And you would think doing 20 years in prison and getting out and it falling in your face, becoming homeless and losing jobs, and you know, you think that that's quite a bottom, but I still kept using, and I would wake up in mental hospitals and crisis units and in jail. And, you know, the courts had declared me to be insane, delusional. And I, I had become suicidal. And I remember one day I was ready to throw myself right in front of a bus. And because I had extreme guilt at the pain that I had caused others, and I believed that there was no hope for me, and I believed my life would never turn around. And I get emotional when I talk about it because it seems like yesterday, in a way, when I went to this recovery meeting and they talked about how the root of addiction and a lot of dysfunction as well is a self-centered fear. And as they talked about that, I realized for the first time, and it was just so in my face, that I had been afraid that I was not good enough. I had been afraid that I was a horrible person, and I had been, you know, I thought that there was something wrong with me, you know. And what I realized in just I just saw that was a lie, and I saw that I was not a horrible person, that I was perfect just as I was, and that I deserved a good life just like anybody else did. And I saw that for the first time, and I instead of judging myself, instead of hating myself like I had, I saw that I was worthy of love, and I was worthy of a good life, and I was worth fighting for. And so I did. That's what allowed me to finally reach out for help. I went for quite a period of time before that where I would go to recovery meetings and someone would say, "Hey man, call me. If you think you're going to use, call me first." And, you know, and I wasn't ready, but on the other hand, there was part of me that wasn't able to do that because I used when the thought of using drugs hit me, and if I had a means and access, then it was almost like I was the wolf man and the moon had just come out. The thought of calling somebody for help didn't even enter my mind. And the reaction was so swift that my knees would buckle and my stomach would do flips, and I would have to use the bathroom all of a sudden. It would get that bad, and it was that visceral. And you know, but when I saw that I was worth it, that I was worth fighting for, and that I was good, I had a space for a moment before those feelings ran away with me, and I was able to ask for help from that point on. And that gave me it was the game changer for me, you know. And it's why when I talk about it today, I believe that the root of this for many people is this self-doubt, this fear of low self-worth. And if that can be addressed, and it's a lifetime of work, of course, you know, but if it can be dealt with, at least a glimpse, someone can catch a glimpse of that, then that can be sufficient to start the process of recovery, you know, because some people, they need to see that to make progress. And that's kind of my whole thing is my passion is to help others see what I saw that day, because that's what finally enabled me to ask for help, the help that I needed so badly.
And that's a good point. Let's read this comment, and I want to say thank you to Susan Day for joining us this evening. We certainly appreciate you. She comments, "I had to show my son that he was worth saving before he let me save him, and then begin to save himself." That is important, and I'd like to say at this moment that everybody, no matter what we have done in the past, the people that we've heard, or choices that we've made. Every single person deserves the opportunity to enjoy their life and to know that they do have greatness within them. When you're in the midst of a drug or alcohol addiction, or any addiction for that matter, anything that's unhealthy, that's hurting you or someone that you know or love, uh, you have these seeds of greatness within you. That addiction isn't letting you actually recognize that you are good, because it doesn't want you to feel good. It wants you to keep on feeding that addiction. That's what it really wants. And so it's a matter of stepping out. But that's why I appreciate the fact that you're here this evening, Don, as well as the fact that the LWN Live with Nature Foundation, their whole goal is to let people know there's hope. There is light in the darkness, no matter what, and we can come back from this stuff. I'd like to go, and I'd also like to let everybody know, if you happen to be watching on Facebook, this is an interactive broadcast as well. Feel free to go ahead and put comments in the comments section. If you've got a thought, if you've got a question for Don, go ahead, put that in there. We'll address as many as we can. We appreciate the viewers that are taking time to join us, and share this video out if you're on Facebook, or if you're watching it on YouTube, share it on out. And remember, you can watch this on E360 TV too. Download that E360 TV application and watch it on Roku, watch it on Apple or Android TV, as well as Amazon Fire. I also would like to just go ahead and go to a quick video. We have a video, I believe, do we not? Yes? I'd like to go to the personal video. We'll save the book. We've got 2 videos, Don. I want to do that one on your website about your personal story. A little bit more.
Okay.
Story.
Hi, I'm Don. In 2011, I was homeless. I was also a hardcore street-level drug addict. And when I say that, what I mean is that I would do almost anything to get high. And when I did, there was no telling where I'd wake up, in an alleyway, in a mental hospital, or even jail. I also had many mental health issues that were so challenging that even the courts had declared me to be insane. And there's more. By that time in my life, I had already served over 20 years in prison, mostly for bank robberies. Looking back at my life, I couldn't figure out why it had become what it was, or what I needed to do to turn it around. When I started getting high at the age of 10, I just knew that I was uncomfortable in my own skin. I just wanted to escape, and I was willing to do anything to get away from this feeling of discomfort, of unease, and I just wanted to escape. By the time that I was 13, my life had become so out of control that my parents had me committed to an inpatient drug program. They thought that I'd be home in a few months, but I never went home again. Instead, the rest of my teenage years were spent in youth homes, in juvenile detention facilities, and even youthful offender prison. And I was sentenced to adult prison for the first time at age 16. My adult years were more of the same, but worse. The drugs got harder, the prison sentences got longer, and it began to take its toll on me. And so in 2011, I was completely worn out. I was isolated and alone and disconnected from other people and the world. I thought that there was no way my life would ever turn around. I thought that I was a horrible person, and I came to believe that the only way out was to take myself out. But one day I had an awakening. I realized that I was not a horrible person. I realized that I was just as good as you. I realized that I had been looking at it all wrong. I saw that I was worth fighting for. And so I did. I reached out for help, and I started putting in the work, and my life did an amazing 180. For the first time in my life, I was finally able to get clean and stop using drugs. I went from being isolated and alone to having true friends and connections, and I also learned how to be a friend. I went from not knowing how to love or be loved to meeting the love of my life, getting married, and having 2 wonderful boys who are the light of my life. I went back to school for software development and landed an entry-level programming job. I worked hard and I advanced, and I wound up leading teams and becoming the director of software development, making software that integrates with banks. The founder of my company even said, "Don's transformation is simply amazing. To have overcome such adversity and, on top of that, to lead teams and create solutions that have helped our company grow from a local startup to the international success it is today is a testimony to the greatness within all of us that Don speaks of." I realized that I needed to give back and help people. So I began speaking at treatment centers, at high schools, at detoxes and homeless shelters, spreading the message that anyone, absolutely anyone, can have the life they want and become the person that they want if they can just catch a glimpse of the greatness they have within and have the courage to take action and chase what is rightfully theirs, a fulfilling life full of love and happiness and success. And today, I know as sure as I am breathing that the greatest thing that I can do is to spread this message of hope. And if I do, at least one person will hear it. They'll catch a glimpse and see the same thing that I saw that day, and their life will be forever changed.
Your life can change too. That is one powerful message. I want you to stick around. We're going to be back with Don. We're going to get to know him a little bit better as well, and he's going to share some more of his wisdom with us. For just a moment here, though, we're going to hear a word from our sponsors. Thank you. We want to thank Sarasota Architectural Salvage, and Don, I tell you, that's one powerful film. Wow. How did that make you feel?
Whenever I watch that and I think, wow, that is really me. And I really did go through all that. And my life did become what it is today. Sometimes I get choked up because now it seems like that's like some whole other lifetime, it almost doesn't seem real, but it was, and it is. And I am always just amazed anew and afresh at the power of recovery. The power that we have available to us when we get connected with other people and get connected with our truth, and we get connected with goodness and love and things like that. And we allow our lives to be guided by that. And it takes some work, but the results are amazing. And there's no limitations on the possibilities for us. And hope is real.
Well, there is no limitations, I believe, at all. Particularly, and I know that you're a spiritual person, as I am as well, and so many of our viewers are. People, if they know me, I have a higher power. That is God, and Jesus is my Savior, and He is a big reason why I was able to get sober, and I know that plays a role in your life as well. And so, in God's world, anything is possible, and we can achieve great stuff. Now, why don't you define, what is recovery to you?
Recovery for me, recovery for me is a discovery of who I am and who I want to be and who I'm meant to be, and the process of learning how to align myself with that and to become that. And while at the same time, remembering that I'm okay just as I am. It's not about trying to change myself to gain some type of validation. It's a matter of changing whatever it is that can be changed that will make me more useful. So recovery for me is that, and it didn't always mean that. At first, recovery was a means to end my suffering, and to stop using drugs and to stop being homeless and to live some type of good life, whatever that may be. And recovery does provide that, and that is the motivation at first for a lot of people. But as things progressed, I realized that the growth available to me was unlimited, and so recovery is about that growth and about always taking it to a new level. And they would tell me in the beginning, if you are all in on this path of recovery, you better buckle your seatbelt, because it is one heck of a ride, and it truly is. And there's some work to it, but I love this, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Well, it does take work, doesn't it? It takes a lot of work,
It
and
does.
it's a daily thing too, is it not?
It is. It is. There's that old saying that if you're doing what you love to do, then it doesn't seem like work. Sometimes it does seem like work, though. And it is a daily thing. It's a just for today approach, um, and the benefits are everything.
Well, I think that you made a good point there, because you said that it doesn't seem like work sometimes, because when you're doing things that you love, all of a sudden it's not a job anymore, is it?
It's not. It's not.
It's not. One of the things I think also is important, you decided to do this for yourself. And I think that that's a big factor for myself. What I found what I ended up doing was this. I ended up relapsing, as they say, many, many times. Like you said earlier, oh yeah, I reached my bottom. That's it. It's over with. And yet I did that, gosh knows, 4,000 times. I'm exaggerating, but maybe not by a whole lot. Who knows? Because, it was many decades in my case of abusing drugs and alcohol. But when I did it for my family, when I did it for my kids, when I did it for, whoever, my parents, I failed. But I found that when I did it for myself, all of a sudden, things started to change when I turned it over to God and said, hey, look, clearly I'm not doing it right. How do you feel about that, turning, your life and your will and the guidance over to God?
It's, my process of recovery, that's a solid part of it. That's something, finding and making a decision to turn my life and my will over to the care of my higher power is critical. I found recovery through the 12 steps, and that is a particular step, and a step that's lived each day. And I have a practice daily that to reinforce that and to grow in that. And for some people, and nowadays there's lots of different kinds of recovery. There's smart recovery, and there's this type of recovery and that, and that's all great. I found that without purpose and without meaning, and without having and being connected to a spiritual path, life it's not as rewarding and fulfilling. And for me, I find it very meaningful to know that I have meaning, and that I have purpose, and I have value, and that I can help in some way. And all of those things in recovery are critical for me and for many people. It's the experience of many, many people, because filling that void through drugs and alcohol, once that's gone, you have to fill that void with something. And I try as I might, I can't fill that with pleasing other people. I can't fill that with trying to please myself in some way, or in pleasure, or in escapism. I have the need to fill that with something real. And I believe that's a love-shaped hole. And so service to other people, and connection to God is critical for that. And
Well, it's a heart-centered mentality as well, because you found that you defined your purpose from your painful, dark experiences, and that became your purpose, and then that became your desire to help others. And most recently, you were living up north here in Safety Harbor. And you decided when I first got to know you that you were going to just sell the house, get an RV and a truck, and go out on the road and shine the light. Tell us about that.
Yes, that's what we decided to do, and I I loved my job in many ways. You know, I was working in the software industry, and I loved my employers. I had been with them for over 7 years, and but I had this longing to do this full time. I had written my book, and I put a lot of time into that, and I have a 4 and a 6 year old, and life is so busy, and as many people know, with young ones, and then between work and that, and you know, I realized I needed to take a leap and to throw myself into promoting the book, speaking and helping other people. And my wife teaches yoga, so she does that remotely as well. And so we made a decision and said, well, now in this, especially with remote connection, so becoming more the norm now in this COVID environment, we made a decision to go ahead and to sell the house and
Mhm.
and to buy the RV and buy the truck. And I've never been quite the handyman. All those years in prison, I didn't know how to change the oil in a car, and I didn't. My dad had to show me how to run the lawnmower. You know what I mean? There were just so many things that I did not know how to do because I had been like a fish out of water. I became a fish out of water after being away for so long. And so anyway,
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for YouTube, and learning how to maintain an RV and learning how to back one of these things up. And but yeah, we decided to do that, and so we're in Texas right now, and we've been on the road for a couple months. Now we moved to Dover for 2 months just to get the swing of it, and I still commuted to work in Clearwater. And then
Okay.
when right before it was time to take off, I put in my notice, and um, we did a book event up in Savannah, Georgia, and then we worked our way back this way, and we're going out west, and I'm making some online courses, and we're homeschooling our children for this year and a half that we're going to be out. They're really glad to have their daddy around a lot more, and I'm glad to be there. And but the thing is I felt like it was the right thing to do. And I was at this flea market in Savannah, and I thought it was going to be one of those hip indie kind of flea markets where with books and crafts and things like that. And it turned out to be a backwoods event with more like used auto parts and washers and dryers. And there I am with my books, and nobody was interested in those books at this place. And but this lady walked up to me and she said, she looked at the books and she looked at me and she said, I want you to continue doing what you're doing and listen to what God puts on your heart, and keep the faith, and it'll work out. Because I was a little bit, I was down a bit, and I was wondering, did I really do the right thing? I mean, my house is gone, my job
Right.
is gone. Now here I am on the road, and so I took that to heart, and things are going to turn out well. I know it. I can't count on my hands the miracles that have happened in my life when I have decided to do the right thing and put myself out there. And I know this is going to be no exception to that, and that it'll help other people. And
Well, that's very honorable, completely honorable. I mean, to think about the fact that you gave up your job and your home and went out on the road so that you can shine the light into other people's lives. Now, I'm just curious. I mean, Texas has got a special place for me. Absolutely, 100%. I used to live in Tyler, Texas, as a matter of fact. That's East Texas for about 4 years. And all of my ex-wife, the mother of my children, his family is from that area. But so what took you to Texas, and then all of a sudden now you got yourself in a situation where there's no power apparently, and it's freezing
well,
cold?
Well, when we put together our itinerary, we wanted to go out west and go through Texas, and we wanted to hang out in Austin for a little while, and then we were going to hook up at McKinney State Park for a few weeks and stay out there. And so we came from Savannah was the first place. We had relatives there that my wife did, and we were going to see them, and we did. And this storm crept up as we arrived in Texas, and so it looked like it was going to be pretty bad, and I didn't want to go camping in the RV with 9 degrees and the high is 30, tops for days on end.
Right.
We had propane, but then the water pipes were going to freeze, and it wouldn't with my kids. And I mean, I just wasn't going to do that. So we got a room at a Holiday Inn in Vidor, Texas. And that's where we're at. And, everything's pretty much starting to clear up, at least sufficiently to where we're going to take off tomorrow morning. And we're headed for White Sands, New Mexico. And we're going to spend a week or so there, then to Tucson, and then up to Sedona, and then Utah. And we're just going to hit that area and spend a few months in that area, then up to the Northwest. And we're going to eventually make our way back down to the Tampa Bay area for the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and we'll see how things stand at that point. But it's quite the journey.
You'll love Utah and Washington State. Of course, I lived in Washington State for about 10 years. It's a beautiful country up there.
I've been to the park up there. Olympic Park, I believe it is, right?
Yeah, there's the
Olympic.
Yes.
Right?
And so you have to go to the whole rainforest out in the peninsula. That's a great place. Yes. And go fishing for salmon if you're a fisherman. That's very cool. I am very proud of you. We want to acknowledge too as well Kimberly for watching this evening, and she indicates that she's really happy about your recovery, and it's probably one of the hardest roads for an addict to travel. It's just as hard for those who love the addict to see them going through addiction, and that's true. I can't imagine, because I was the addict and the alcoholic, but I have a good idea how much suffering my parents went through. I really do. I mean, when my mom has told me, look, I didn't know whether you were going to be alive the next day type of stuff, and kept her up at night. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
We create some pain, a lot of pain for people around us when we're making these poor choices. But, I don't regret what happened, because I wouldn't be who I am, and I don't think you would be who you are today without having experienced that. And I found that that's what God wanted for us, is to have to go through that stuff. And so it's hard to see sometimes, but if we trust and have faith, we know that those experiences were something that we could draw our strength from and become a better person as a result. What I'd like you to do is share with the viewers, for the person that doesn't have that drug addiction or alcohol addiction, or but they know somebody that does, what would you tell them? How can they effectively help, or can they help that other person?
I think that what comes to mind first for me, and it's kind of like a two-edged sword, is to love that person. And love can take on many forms, as we know. It doesn't necessarily mean enabling someone. It can mean setting boundaries as well, but to love that person, because and it's hard to love. Love can be hard. It can be painful. I know that from watching my parents, and I know that from just many experiences in my life that when it hurts deep, that's the worst kind, and but I also know that the fact that my parents loved me, and that I knew that's the one thing through all my darkness that I never doubted that love was real, and it was because of the love that my parents and my family had shown me, that I believe that saved me. When I was going through hepatitis C in prison on my 10th year in prison, and I had wasted away to almost nothing, and I was depressed and suicidal, I remembered that love was real and that somehow I'm going to make it through this. And when I could just start naming off times, just extreme low points in my life, that believing that there's a reason for this and that love is real and that hope is real, I would remember in the moment, and that is what got me through these things. And ultimately, it bore fruit in my life. And so I would say to love that person, and that might mean loving at a distance because we do have to protect ourselves. And what that looks like for people is different depending on the situation, obviously. But that and to affirm to that person that they are worth it, that they are worth saving, that they are worth recovery, that they are worth a good life, and planting that seed. And treatment and getting someone to go in treatment and to admit they need help, those seem to be kind of the obvious in a way.
Right.
And but those are the things that come to mind for me that I know that worked for me.
Well, I think that that's good advice, and what I've had to learn from not necessarily an addiction to the drug or the alcohol, but addiction to some pretty toxic relationships that I had in the past, was to have to step away.
Yeah.
And that's kind of they used to call it tough love, but sometimes that's what it takes, because I had to learn the hard way, because I ended up homeless. I think you knew that, Don, because of my drinking and driving. I lost it all. But, we're both here to be able to tell people, hey, look, if you have the desire, it all starts with that desire to want to make your life better. You're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You can get better, because those seeds of greatness that were planted in you are there, and all we had to do is nurture them. We're down to just about 2 minutes or so. I'd like you to share some final words with the viewers and impart some wisdom with them, Don. Oh, yeah, you've got a book too. Let's do that first.
Oh, sure.
We've got a quick clip about Don is an author. He's written a book about his experiences. So let's take a look at that video. I love that music too. That's great music. I was sitting here bouncing in the chair going, yeah. Hey, folks, you can get that book on Don's website as well as Amazon and Barnes & Noble. That's really so awesome. But check out Don's website. It's rolling in the ticker below. Yeah, give him some love. Absolutely. Go and check it out. You can find out more about him. He is available too as well to speak. So share your final parting wisdom with us, Don.
I would just say that I mentioned that hope is real and that love is real, and that it's always the answer. When I realized that I was worth it, and that's what changed my life, and I believe that I believe in the power of prayer. I believe in the power of goodness, and goodness will triumph. I believe, and that's what we have to keep holding on to, that belief, that faith. And I believe it'll come to pass for myself, and I believe for listeners as well.
Excellent. There is hope. There's light in the darkness too, folks. Might not seem like it, but there is light. We all have this little light within us, and we just need to turn it into a bonfire like Don's done, right? So proud of you, Don. I'm just so honored that you took time to join us this evening. I want everybody to know, go visit his website, check it out, get the book, okay? And if you don't have the problem with drugs or the alcohol, and you're doing good, chances are you know somebody that's been touched by drugs and alcohol or that might be suffering right now. Get that book for them and hand it to them so that they can get inspired and they can find out about that hope. We want to thank you very much again, Don. We want to
Thank
thank all the
you.
viewers. You're very welcome. We appreciate you, the viewers, everybody taking time to come and join us this evening. We are Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Town Hall Get to Know Show is about people like Don who are making a positive impact in their community. And Monday, we have Kelly Gunter. You just got to join us for this. This is a serious story. It's going to be a little bit tough, but she's a survivor of sexual abuse, and she's got a great story. She's a real inspiration. We've got health and fitness, Layla Pena. On Wednesday, we're talking health and wellness, and then Friday we've got another recovery story. Saf Bugsy will be with us next Friday. So join us. In the meantime, hey, let's have a great weekend. If you happen to be in Sarasota, come on out to Thunder on the Bay. I'll be down there selling the gear for Suncoast Charities for Children. Come and support Suncoast Charities for Children. And let's help the kids around here. That's such a great organization. And by the way, Molly Hatch is playing tomorrow night. Come and join us. We'll have a fun time. All right, folks. Thank you so very much. God bless you. Enjoy your weekend. And thank you, Don.
Thank you. Thanks again.
We'll see you all soon.
We let our bathtub go too long. It had rust in it, it had deep pitting in it, there were chips. I, quite frankly, thought it was unrepairable.
Total Coatings is a family-owned and operated bathtub and shower refinishing company. We've been around since 2006, but we use a exclusive non-toxic porcelain coating that was developed over 60 years ago by a franchise in California. So the product is very well established. We refinish bathtubs, showers, wall tile, countertops, and even sinks. Customers want to know what makes our product different, and that's, of course, the exclusive non-toxic porcelain. We also don't acid etch the surface, so you don't have to leave your home because of noxious fumes.
I was completely and utterly shocked. It looked like a brand new bathtub. I would recommend Total Coatings to anybody.